A pleasant good evening to this evening's Friday class of Steel. You are all welcome with us this evening, all ambassadors and those who are viewing on our YouTube channel, those who are visiting us on Facebook, and also those who are visiting us on LinkedIn. You're very welcome to be here in the classes session this evening, and we are going to be streaming this evening's session live. We have Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe for her Friday night sessions. So without any further ado, please let me introduce Her Excellency Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe for our Friday evening Class of Steel session. Your Excellency Dr. Defoe, please take the class this evening.
Well, good evening to you, Your Excellency, all the excellencies in the house, and everyone who is joining us for this Friday edition of Class of Steel. Indeed, it is an honor and privilege to be with you once again in our global learning circle, where we discuss the principles and practices of leadership, social impact, change, and transformation. This evening, I will continue a discussion about social entrepreneurship and being a social entrepreneurship leader. And we've talked about the practices and the principles of social entrepreneurship. We've talked about their link to the UN sustainable goals, but there's a saying: we manifest in our world what we believe, and our attitude and our belief really certainly impacts our choices, our decisions, and how we make our way through life. And so in this edition of the Class of Steel, I want to talk about changing your world. And when you change your world, you are able to change the world. But it all starts with that face that greets you in the mirror. And that's why on you, because our limitations, our aspirations, our accomplishments, it all goes to what we believe, what we think are our possibilities. And if we think we cannot, indeed, that's what will manifest. And so we have to check our mind, our thoughts, and make sure that we're not letting the inner critic, which we all have an inner critic, that we don't let that voice derail us or deny us or discourage us. And so I welcome you into this session as we look at change your world, change the world. Next slide, please. So as I said, my purpose here tonight or in the afternoon or whatever time zone you may be in, wherever you are in this global world that we're living in, my purpose is really to make a difference in your life, your thinking, and to really raise your awareness about how you view yourself, how you view your possibilities, and how you view your goals and your aspirations. Everywhere I go, and as a global impact leader, every time that you step into the room, you should be seeking to add value, adding value to yourself through partnerships, relationships, for information gathering, for who you connect with in the room, what they share with you, and what you're able to share with them. That is how you begin to change your world. Next slide, please. So I believe, as I've shared in the past 2 Fridays I've spent with you, that social entrepreneurship indeed is a vessel for change. That as a leader, as a global impact leader, when you use the practices and the principles of social entrepreneurship, you can shift yourself because you become more purposeful. You can shift teams, you can shift organizations, and you're really able to transform communities and nations. But part of being able to do that is what you're thinking up here. What is your mindset? What do you believe? How are you using your attitudes and your belief systems to shape what you think is possible? Because you can either be an individual that focuses on possibility, or you can be one that dwells on problems. That is a daily choice that we all have each and every day. And as a leader, those that are watching you, those that are modeling after your behavior, your teams, those people that you touch, that you talk to, they are observing you. They are observing your behaviors, your habits, your attitudes. And so many times you don't even realize that people are observing you, that people are aware of how you are going through each and every day. And when you use social entrepreneurship as a tool to harness the strengths of your team, the strengths in the community, when you bring them all together, this is evolving to something that I mentioned before, which more and more are being referred to as fourth sector kinds of enterprises and projects. So I believe that everybody here that is listening, that for some reason your steps were ordered divinely here because you are a social entrepreneur or you are an aspiring to be one. Next slide, please. So when you think about social entrepreneurship, being a global impact leader, you have to ask yourself, is my mind really made up about this? Am I still kind of wavering? Am I not really sure? Am I letting uncertainty, or am I letting discouragement, or I had a few setbacks? Am I letting that impact me letting my true brilliance out? You know, what and how are you thinking? That's what you have to ask yourself each and every day. How am I seeing myself and how am I going through the world? Because if we're going to impact and we're going to uplift others, as they often say when they're going through the safety notices on the plane, and they always, say put the oxygen on yourself first. So if you're going to lead others, you first have to get comfortable with leading yourself. And if you're not sure of your purpose, or you have doubts about yourself, it really makes it very challenging for you to lead others. Next slide. So one of the big things that if you would Google, and you don't have to take Dr. Defoe's word on this, if you would Google now and you would Google entrepreneur mindset, millions upon millions of hits will come up, because entrepreneur mindset is becoming more and more a skill that is looked for, whether you are working a job or whether you creating your own enterprise and you are creating jobs for others. Entrepreneur mindset is very, very essential in this season that we're in, because it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. When you think about entrepreneurs in the simplest tense, in the simplest terms of the word, an entrepreneur looks at the environment, they scan it, they look for opportunities, they look for gaps in the marketplace, and they come up with a product or a service to meet that. Well, the entrepreneur always is looking for opportunity. They tend to see opportunity more than they really flourish and think about the obstacles. And so everybody has to really work to nurture their entrepreneur mindset. Because when you do, it's a certain way that you will approach challenges and mistakes. Many times when we have challenges, if we don't have the entrepreneur mindset, we immediately get derailed, we get discouraged, and soon we give up. True entrepreneurs and those with the entrepreneur mindset, no, they look for the lesson, they learn from the lesson, they infuse it, and then they get up and they try again. And those things that are called mistakes or failure, that's just telling you, as you've heard me say before, change the process. But many times when we have a setback, we dwell in what we call and classify failure. And we play that over and over in our mind. And every time another opportunity or something to try, we'll say, oh, well, I tried that before. Oh, that's not going to work. Or somebody else tried it and it didn't work for them. Everybody's passion and purpose and your divine assignment is only yours. You're the only one that was given the gift of life to come and to fulfill it. And it's you, if you decide to fulfill it or if you decide that you're going to sit on it. But it's really about looking on every experience to improve your skill set and to try and try again. That is the entrepreneur mindset. And so you might say, well, Dr. D, why is that important? I'm going to tell you. I'm glad you asked. Next slide, please. When you're thinking about the entrepreneur mindset, this is a way for you to really grow yourself, grow your team, and grow organizations, impact nations. When you have that entrepreneur mindset, you're always looking for opportunity. You're looking to see how can I harness resources. You know, when you have that entrepreneur mindset, you are so engrossed on how you're going to accomplish the end goal that the steps, the journey, you're looking and you're learning from it. Even those hiccups that you may have. Maybe you tried a process and it didn't work. So that's telling you to shift your process. Maybe you had a team member and that didn't work out. That's telling you, when you're hiring talent, that maybe you should pay more attention to X, Y, Z. Every experience that you meet along the way is being sent, is being there to help you, to grow you, to expand you. And that's what an entrepreneurial mindset does for you. Next slide, please. So when you work to embody this kind of mindset, you really are building up your resiliency, because no matter what challenges you face, no matter what kind of situations and circumstances you might encounter, you have a belief, you have an attitude that you can work your way through it, because that's what entrepreneurs do. And that is a way not only to add value to yourself, to change yourself, but to change the world around you. Because those people who get derailed, distracted, just give up when they hit a setback, they are really not ever truly able to manifest their destiny. They are not able to complete their divine assignment. So your mind, everything begins with a thought. Everything begins here. And if you think that, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur, I can't start a social enterprise, oh, I tried and I didn't get the partners, I didn't get the resources. I wanted to sell 1,000 units today, I only sold 700. And then you say, oh, I may as well quit. That is not the mindset of an entrepreneur, not the entrepreneur mindset. And if you really take that scan, as I was saying, and Google it, you will find that employers are saying they want to hire people with entrepreneurial mindsets. So whether you are creating an enterprise or you work for an enterprise, this is a value added skill that you need to embrace. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So how do you do this? Think about it. How do you change yourself? How do you change your world? How do you use social entrepreneurship as a tool to foster change, sustainable change? Next slide, please. So when you think about it, these are some of the things that you can do as you're building yourself and you are embracing your entrepreneur mindset. First thing, look at your vision on a daily basis, revisit it. Think about it. That should be your focus when you start today. What is your vision? As you know, Hosea 4:6 says people perish for lack of vision. You got to have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you may as well just get into your vehicle and start driving. And if you're driving, where are you going to go? You're going to go wherever you end up. And wherever you end up might not be where you intended or thought you wanted to go. So you always got to stay focused on your vision. It doesn't matter, the hiccups that you face, the delays, which do not mean that your vision is denied. You have to stay focused on the vision. Stay focused on the end that you want to accomplish. Do that on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So you want to put yourself into challenging situations. You want to learn new things. You want to sometimes step into rooms where you're feeling fearful, but you step in the room anyway. You want to kind of press yourself, because the more you do that, the more you're sharpening your skills, the more you grow in your belief in yourself to accomplish your entrepreneurial goals. The more that you're able to do this, the more you grow in a confidence that you can prevail, that you can accomplish what it is you want to. Many times we let fear keep us from stepping out, to keep us, from trying those difficult things that we perhaps have failed at the past. Put yourself in challenging situations so that you can grow yourself, you can expand yourself, and you will also grow your confidence in yourself. Next slide, please. So when you're putting yourself into these challenging situations, you are really quieting down the inner critic, because the inner critic lives upstairs for all of us. All of us have three voices that are always circling around in our head. We have the inner critic who always says, oh, you're not good enough. You can't do this. You don't know enough. You don't have the resources. You don't have the connections. You don't have whatever. That's the inner critic. The inner defender always tells you that, okay, that was okay. The inner defender always defends our bad behavior, when we're rude, when we don't be as courteous. The inner defender always makes an excuse for us. But that the inner guide is there. That's when spirit, that is your true north. That is telling you what you should do. And we hear the voices, just as we know right from wrong. That is the inner guide. But many times we don't listen to it, because as humans, although we are spirits, we forget the spirit is there to protect us and to guide us. But because we have gotten so used to being in this concrete world, that if we don't see it there in black and white, we assume that spirit can be right, that we don't have the information. Now, granted, you should make data-driven decisions, but that should be coupled with divine spirit indicators that tell you when you're on the right path. Next slide, please. So you're looking at your vision, you're putting yourself in challenging situations, new experiences, so you can grow. And you read on a daily basis. Leaders read. Read. And now it's easier than ever to read. You can read in your car. You can read on your break. while many people love and they relish the beauty of holding a book, there's so many ways that you can read now, that you can maximize the moments for your reading. And so that is a way to absorb new knowledge and new information. Because just as I'm talking to you right now, some new information is coming out. We are in a knowledge age. We are in an inventive thinking age. And so there is a slew of knowledge. Now, yes, you have to make sure that the knowledge is valid and factual, but the more you read, the more you learn. We are in a season where continuous learning and continuous improvement is a must for all of us. Everybody that I chat with, they talk about how they were either rusty with Zoom, they didn't use Zoom, and now everybody is finding that they're having to learn and experience new things on these digital platforms because of the season of COVID-19 that we're in. So more and more, the more you read, the more you know, the more you can share. That is the way to change your world and the world of others. Next slide, please. So you want to approach problems, or which I like to call possibilities, from all sides. You want to look at what are the potential solutions. You want to analyze the solutions, and then you want to come up with what is the best approach to solve that challenge, because challenges are going to come. Nobody ever promised that it would be a rose garden or a smooth carpet ride. But the learning, the gain, that is what waits you on the other side. All of the things that you aspire to do, whether through your social enterprise, as a leader in your business, whatever, all of that always awaits you outside of your comfort zone. And if you're not willing to be a little bit uncomfortable, if you are afraid to kind of embrace the unknown, or if you allow yourself to say so in the box, all that could be, all of your aspirations, all of the things that you intended to accomplish, you never would. I use myself as an example, and I've shared with some of you that I was in my comfortable box as a vice president at an organization in Florida. The money was good and there was the box. But Spirit kept saying, there's other work for you to do. There's other places that I want you to go. And I heard Spirit talking, but I kept trying to push it to the back. And I kept trying to avoid the conversation that was clear in my head. But when I reflect today, I often think about what I would have missed if I had not dared step my foot outside of the box, if I had not really followed what Spirit was telling me to do. All the people that I've met, the places I've been able to go, the projects that I have been able to work on, the impact that I've been able to share and that has been shared with me. If I had sat there in the box, all of that I would have missed out on. So you don't want to miss your divine assignment or your blessings. So you want to think about approaching, problems from all sides, and you want to start thinking about, how do I venture outside of the box that either I've put around myself or others have put around me? Next slide. So when you look at that, I want everybody to look at this, and you can even try this, as I continue to share with you. But you see these 9 dots, and I want you, you're sitting there, you put these 9 dots on a piece of paper, and I want you to try to connect these 9 dots using 4 lines without moving your pencil or pen from the paper. And I'm going to continue, but this is something I want you to try. I want to see who actually is able to do that. The 9 dots, just as you see them on the screen, and you are to use 4 lines to connect all of these dots. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about, how do you approach this? How do you make that happen? I'll say it again one more time. 4 lines. Don't move your pen or pencil from the paper. Only 4 lines. Next slide, please. So you also, as you're thinking about your entrepreneurial mindset, you always want to be in motion. You always want to add value wherever you go. You want to be value added. And if you have this entrepreneurial mindset and you are looking to add value, you'll be invited into rooms that on your own you perhaps could not have gotten into. You will find that you are respected and appreciated because you add value. You always want to provide value. You want to be looked upon as a value added leader. Because when you do that, that people look at you as a source for transformation and a source for change. Next slide, please. So I know that everybody is still perplexed and still looking at the 9 dots as I speak, because when people do that, they find the challenge of trying to make that happen, and they refuse to let those 9 dots win. And so people look at it and they say, well, how am I going to do this? How am I looking at this issue? How am I going to solve this? So I know that's what you're doing. So when you think about changing the world and changing yourself, I want you to kind of ponder these questions. You know, the first one is what change do you see around you that you say, oh man, I've got to do something about this. I can't stand to see this happen. I can't let this continue to happen. That gives you some indications about your purpose and passion and about what kinds of social enterprises you might create. You know, when you see those issues and you think about what needs to change in this, what needs to happen, and then you ask yourself, how do I see myself contributing to this? How how can I foster the change? Next slide, please. Then you ask yourself, you know, what reasons have people given that this is still like this? Why is that situation or that circumstance, why hasn't it changed? Why is it still the same way? Why are people not getting involved? Why are people saying, oh, you know, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, I wish I could help. I wish there was something I could do. Oh, that's so unfortunate. What reasons are people giving for not doing anything to transform the situation? But when you hear that you can change the world, do you believe it? Many times we are not able to change circumstances, situations, or uplift other people because we don't believe it. So you have to ask yourself on a daily basis, as I said, what is my vision? What is my vision for change? Can I actually be a vehicle for change? Can I change other people? Because this is all critical if you are thinking about creating a social entrepreneurship kind of situation. If you're thinking and you aspire to be an impactful global leader, these are all of the things that will come into your mind on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So when you think about it, what do you feel? When you think about the situation or the circumstance that's near and dear to your heart, how does it make you feel? Those things that we feel compelled to change, they bring emotions to the surface. They touch us deep in our heart and our spirit. We really, when we see people suffering, or we see people lacking for basic needs, basic access to opportunity, how do you feel? And when you think about that, how does that make you feel in terms of a leader, in terms of wanting to change something, to organize something, to be a catalyst? You have to ask yourself, really, do you want to change the world? And can you use social enterprise as a way to do that? Because as we've been talking about in the last 2 Fridays, I've shared with you that social entrepreneurship, social enterprise is combining, in the simplest term, the best of business principles with social good. You have to ask yourself, you know, how can I be that change that I want to see? How can I make people and places respond, accept, embrace, and support the transformation that you want to see? But you got to first believe it within yourself. And so many times, as I said, we let setbacks, we let situations, we let those things make us feel that the change is not possible. Next slide, please. So as you're pondering, and I know that some of you in the learning circle, you are indeed social entrepreneurs, but have you asked yourself the question, what type of social entrepreneur do I aspire to be? What kind? Have you asked yourself that question? And this goes more so with the framework, not so much the core values and the habits and behaviors of a social entrepreneur, but how do you want to impact? What kind of social impact do you want to have? Next slide, please. So there's a variety of social entrepreneurs that take different forms of and fashion. And one of them is a trailblazer. And the trailblazer is really a social entrepreneur that's known for kind of blazing new trails, opening up doors, expanding mindset. This person has introduced us a new idea, a new approach. That is what a trailblazer, a social entrepreneur does. Next slide, please. You know, for a trailblazer, when you're thinking about who you are and who you aspire to be, for the trailblazer, being autonomous is quite important. The trailblazer is really looking to kind of change the game in whatever sector that they are involved with. They're looking to be that innovator. They're looking to change the way something is approached, the ideas, and the trailblazer really is looking to sow into the lives and the projects of other people just by the knowledge of the approach that they have created. The trailblazer is one who does not let no stop him or her. They don't let setbacks stop them. They are keenly focused on that trail that they're trying to blaze. Next slide, please. Another form of fashion is the champion. And the champion is one who is claiming an idea, a mission. They are a champion for a specific project. The champion may pick water, or they may pick education, or they may pick schools, returning citizens, whatever that area, the champion social entrepreneur, they become almost a poster child for that project, that area. They want to collaborate with people. They want to collaborate with places, and wherever they go, their brand starts to become whatever that issue is, because people know that they are solidly championing changes, transformation in that particular area. Next slide, please. The champion also is a go-getter. The champion will create his or her own ecosystem with others. The champion will advocate for that area, that project, wherever he or she goes. The champion is focused solidly on what that issue, what that product, what that service is for the greater good that he or she seeks to accomplish. Next slide, please. Then there's the originator. And the originator, that originator is really looking to figure out what they can do to kind of shift the landscape. They have come up with their own idea, their own concept, maybe a whole totally different approach. And they are looking at how can they shift the mindset of everybody that might be working in that ecosystem. They have analyzed the situation, the product or the service, and they want to share their viewpoint to others. That is the originator. Next slide, please. The originator also loves freeness and openness. The originator is looking for the best solutions, the best ideas. The originator is one that is open to new approaches, that they are open to hefty and maybe sometimes volatile discourse, because they want to get to that greater good. And the originator is in the landscape and really wanting to get people to share ideas and approaches so that the best solution can be derived. Next slide, please. So when you think about, are you going to be an originator? Are you a trailblazer? What kind of social entrepreneur are you? That is at the foundation as you're figuring out, what is my social enterprise going to be? How am I going to change myself in my world? How am I going to make a difference? And everybody that is in this circle this evening, I hope that you know that indeed, as this slide says, you have the capacity to make a difference, but many times we don't know it. Next slide, please. And it goes back to your attitudes and your belief system. You know, when you're thinking about whether you're going to be an originator or if you're going to be, a trailblazer, when you think about it, then you have to think about what kind of social entrepreneur, what kind of approach am I going to be? The community social entrepreneur is focused on a specific geographical area, target population, and they are looking to transform their community. That's where they focus all of their work and their efforts. So you may decide, I'm going to start in my island. I'm going to start maybe in my community. Maybe I'm going to start within my ethnic group. That is whatever community you decide. That is how the community social entrepreneur approaches the work. Next slide. The social entrepreneur from the community standpoint really is focused on what changes does my community need so that it can maximize the potential. What are the gaps in my community? How can I change this? If I provide educational services, maybe is access to healthy foods Maybe there's no store in the community. Maybe the businesses need training. And when you are a community social entrepreneur, you are looking at how you can impact and how you can transform your community, that specific geographical area. Next slide, please. The nonprofit social entrepreneurs we spend a lot of time talking about is one who is running an NGO. And the NGO is infusing these kinds of enterprise principles into their operations. The nonprofit does this and uses this as a way to earn revenues so that the revenues can be infused into the program, so that if they do get grants and donations, which often have limits in terms of eligibility or even how many people that they can serve, that they have other means, other mechanisms so that they can serve the people. Next slide, please. As I shared, more and more and more nonprofits are embracing a social enterprise, many out of necessity and many out of really realizing that that is one of the most sustainable business models to have. One that, that combines your grants, your donations, and your earned revenue that you get through your enterprises. That is what a nonprofit social entrepreneur does. Next slide, please. There's the transformational social entrepreneur, and this is one who is really looking to create sustainable changes, and they want a business that can create and really shift social needs. There's a project that is widely advertised that these young men had gone to visit a place, and they saw all of the plastics and the debris thrown into the ocean. And then they started to do a recycling project, and they would do ocean cleanup. And from the ocean cleanup, then they started making bracelets with the recycled material. And then those recycled bracelets help to support their social enterprise. And they've sold millions. They've made millions with that one act and the simple bracelet. This is what transformational social entrepreneurs do, is looking at that issue, that cause that just really nearly brings them to tears, and figure out, how am I going to transform this situation? What can I do? Many times they may create accelerators to kind of push it, but sometimes they may be part of a large social enterprise ecosystem. But transformational social entrepreneurs are really looking to do great social impact, not just in a geographical area, but many times globally. Next slide, please. Also, when you're thinking about whether or not you are a transformational social entrepreneur, many times this is embedded within an NGO, and the NGO may work with other NGOs or with corporations, and then this whole ecosystem starts to focus on this project. And there are many entities out here now that say that they are transformational social entrepreneurs, that they use their resources, they use their influence to gather people to work on issues and to try to impact the lives of others. Next slide. The global social entrepreneur kind of combines all of this. They're not just working in a geographical area, they're trying to do an enterprise that could be replicated and perhaps even franchised in different places, so that a global shift can happen. This might end up in job training shift. It might be youth development. It could be youth enterprise. It could be a manufacturing. Global social entrepreneurs are looking to change social systems. They're looking to change quality of life systems around the globe. Here again, harnessing their business intellectual properties, the properties of those that are part of the team, and collaborating when they can. Next slide, please. The global entrepreneur also is thinking about what is that issue. As I said, when you're thinking about what your vision is, most social entrepreneurs have one issue, and they may have others that are interrelated with it, and that is what they focus on. They focus that in their work, and they focus it in the enterprises that they create. So you have to ask yourself, am I a visionary? Am I a trailblazer? Am I an originator? Am I a champion? Do I want to just work in a geographic area? Am I a community social entrepreneur? Am I global? Or what impact is it that you want to have? Am I going to run my social enterprise through an NGO? How do I see myself manifesting the vision that's deep and near and dear to your heart? Next slide, please. The global entrepreneur also is looking in terms of collaboration. Who can they collaborate with? How can I really maximize the impact so that I'm able to have global impact, but also be able to maintain the quality? Being a social entrepreneur and being able to have systems that are consistent, approaches, even the quality of your project, your product or service. Those are all key things for you to think about, because you want to maintain your brand, you want to maintain your market share, and you want people to feel that they can depend on you for quality and that you can fulfill the orders. Next slide, please. So I'm back to how you gonna change your world. And people out there say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna change the world. I can change the world. But in those quiet moments, they don't really believe it. And how you can really change yourself in the world is really by recognizing and harnessing your unique gifts. What are your gifts? What are those things that you're highly skilled at? That's what leaders do. Because as I often say, and we have to sometimes tap ourselves on the shoulder to remind ourselves that as a leader, you manage processes, but you lead people. And often we get the two things mixed up. You don't manage people because you can't manage people, because motivation is inherent. It comes from within. So you can inspire people and you can lead them. You manage processes. And if you have stable processes, consistent processes, and you're teaching people on your team the processes, your social enterprise will thrive. But if you're not, and you think that you can manage people and you can brow people, it does not work. So part of the big step is knowing yourself and understanding who you are as a leader, understanding your leadership style, and knowing what your giftings are, and getting people on your team that have giftings that perhaps you don't have. Next slide. Too often, leaders feel that they must do everything, know everything, be everything. And that is not true leadership. When you are not able to allow people on your team to thrive, when you feel a way, if you feel threatened, then you have to have some quiet conversations with yourself and say, why am I feeling threatened? Because typically when we're threatened by others, it's because we see something in them that we really aspire to be. But instead of trying to model their attitude or their behavior or whatever it is, we tend to feel threatened. And in some instances, depending on the mindset, people sometimes sabotage them. We have to remember as a leader, whether you are having a social enterprise or just in your day-to-day leadership work, when you serve other people, you help them to grow. But next slide, please. When you're helping them to grow, you grow yourself because we learn from all our interactions. Nobody, nobody knows everything except our divine Savior. And when people feel and want to act as though they know everything, I always want to run the other way because I know that person, and I always make this joke. Either they haven't had their medication that day or they in deep denial because nobody knows everything. But we all have met people who they think that they know more than God. You can't tell them anything. Even when the sky is blue and you telling them that it's blue, but they have in their mind that the sky is purple, they are going to argue with you to the bitter end. That kind of situation, there's nothing you can do about it. Know that as a leader, the more that you grow and you add value to others, the more that you add value to yourself. As I often have shared from John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the first law that he shares, and I see this so play out wherever I go, wherever my steps are ordered, and it's the law of the lid, and it often speaks about that the leader of an organization, depending upon their level of efficiency and effectiveness, the organization that they're leading, the operation, the project, that organization will never surpass the effectiveness of that person. So if your leadership effectiveness is at a 5, the organization you leading is probably going to be at a 5 or lower. And so the more you grow yourself, the more you know yourself, the more you take the lid off of your knowledge, your quest for knowledge, the better it is. And you're raising your lid, you're raising your effectiveness. And that law of the lid can impact the folks that are on your team. So don't feel challenged. You know, when someone on your team, if they know something that you don't know, they share. That's the beauty of a team. A team is only negative when it starts to have that mindset, that group think. Group think can be very good or very bad. When you have people on a team and the culture and climate has been so set that people are afraid to share their opinions, then negative groupthink is happening because if they're just nodding their head and saying yes, and especially if they know that the ship has a hole in it in the left, and they keep telling you, but you don't listen, and you said, "Oh no, it doesn't. I know my ship is perfect." They're gonna make sure that they're not there when the day they think the ship is going down. They're gonna make sure that they're not there because they told you. And you don't want your people on your team to see things with your brand, see things that they should feel comfortable sharing. That is the beauty, because the more you're open to learning and exchanging ideas, I've said it over and over that feedback is your friend because you know what to fix. You know how to shift something. You can change, but it's when you don't want to hear anything, when you know it's raining on your head and you want to say no, it's a sunshiny day. You're not dealing with the fact of the matter. So now if you know it's raining, then you know to get your umbrella out. And it's the same thing when you're thinking about running your social enterprise or running your team. The feedback you get from customers, the feedback you get from people on your team, then you know how to continuously improve. Feedback is your friend. Don't let it deter you or make you feel less than, because someone telling you something, or even you saying, "Oh, I made a mistake," or "I didn't know," those are the true signs of a leader. That doesn't make you less than the magnificent person that divinely you are already. It does not. And so we have to change the mindset, and you have to tell the inner critic to be quiet. Because if in those instances when that happens and you hear the inner critic saying, Yeah, I knew you was stupid, or you didn't know, or you didn't know that, or you letting that person tell you that. The inner critic is that negative force of the spirit that wants to keep you from really maximizing, because the more impact you are divinely destined to accomplish, I hate to tell you, the more the forces of darkness gonna come after you, because they can already see what could happen. If you believed in yourself and your project and you could see what was on the other side, think about it. My example I gave you of myself. If I had known all the places that I was going to go and the people I would meet and the projects, I sat there. The voice told me to leave, and I sat there for 4 years additionally before I finally had the courage to leave. And think about it. I might have, had not if I had not really let loss and kind of a wake up call. And that's something else. You don't want to change your world after loss. I think I've shared after the loss of my parents, then I decided, was I just, gonna kind of sleepwalk through life, or was I gonna live life? And was I more afraid of when I go on to eternal life, feeling that I did not complete my divine assignment? Or was I going to sit there and shuffle papers and get this great paycheck, but not use my giftings and not feel challenged? So when you're thinking about it, those kinds of things, feedback that you get, that doesn't derail you. And I hate to tell you that everybody that's smiling in your face or maybe may standing there like they're applauding, they really, sometimes they're not. So you got to know who's in your inner circle and who's in your tribe. Because many times people are just waiting, hoping for you to be derailed. They're hoping that you will let that hiccup derail you, because they're not dreaming. They've stopped dreaming. So they don't want you to change the world. They don't want you to change yourself. And so the more they can sow into negativity in your spirit, some people are happy even while they smiling and clapping. That's why you got to know your vision and hold on to it, because sometimes being a leader can be very lonely because you got to walk alone. But when you have a circle, when you have a tribe like what the class of steel is, we are a resource. We are a support system. We are a mastermind for each other. You got to find your tribe. You've got to find those people who support you. If you're spending a lot of time, and unfortunately sometimes it can be family and friends, and you can't just ditch your family and friends, but you know how much to share and you know what box, what compartment to put them in. You'll know who to share your dreams and your aspirations with. You'll know you may have a conversation with this box. You have a different conversation. Unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. And as a leader and as a global impact leader, we have to, to recognize that. And in many instances, you may be in a situation you're leading, none of us go to lead an organization. And I often tell the people this when I'm counseling them about their careers. You're not going to the job, to make friends. If you go there and you happen to make a friend, that's a wonderful thing. You're going there to provide the skills and the time that you negotiated with the employee, that you said in that magnificent interview that you had with the recruiter, what you could do for that company. That's all they buying. They're not buying your bad attitude. They're not buying negativity, your skills and your time. And if you make a friend, fine. So even as a leader, everybody on your team, they may not like you, but they respect you. And the research supports that even when you got to deliver bad news, as you carry yourself with core values and with respect, that even when you got to share bad news, people on your team, even if they may not like you and they may say, oh, Dr. Defoe is tough, but in the end, they may respect her and say, well, she gets the work done, or she's a servant leader, or, the Dr. Defoe you meet yesterday is the same one, that she is consistent. That's more important than like, because like is a fleeting emotion anyway. Next slide, please. So you want to change your world. Can we wait for change? Can you wait for it? For those things that you want to see change, those areas, those things that are near and dear to heart. Do you want to see young people hungry? Do you want to see young people not have access to school? I'm always upset with some of the Caribbean nations that they charge a tuition. If a young person is in a poverty-ridden situation, where is the family going to get tuition to pay? Where are they going to get the money? Why, I know that value is always added when people have some skin in the game, as they say. But wonder if they don't have anything to put in. And so to charge people and to make it difficult, and education is the difference maker. Education can transform people and places. And I'm sure that some of you, and probably most of you, have heard the impact that education has, and there's the African proverb that, you educate a girl, you educate a nation, because the girl child, will ultimately become the mother. And depending on her level of education, she could uplift the family and the community. So when you think about what that issue is that is near and dear to your heart, you have to say, am I going to wait for Dr. Defoe to do that, or I'm going to get up and do it? I might ask Dr. Defoe to help me, or I might ask His Excellency Bishop Steele to help me. But am I going to wait? Am I going to wait for someone to decide? No, we can't wait for change. Next slide, please. So who do you need when you're thinking about the change? Who do you need? Who is the first person that you need? Next slide, please. YOU. You're the first person in need. You need to be on board. You need to decide. Once you decide that you are the difference maker, all it takes is one person to start, and then it can grow. In all of the research about mentoring and about working with young people, and they talk about the internal and the external factors that can contribute to the positive development of a young person. One of the factors externally is having one person that is a champion, one person that ignites them, supports them, encourages them. All it takes is one person. Sometimes it might be mother, father. Sometimes that's not the case. You just need one person. And the change in the world starts with YOU. Next slide, please. So after you, then you need me, and then it's all of us collectively. Collectively, we can impact, we can change the world if we believe it. If we put all of our intelligences together, if we put our strategies together, if we put our resources, everybody has a different tribe, everybody has a different skill. When you put that all together, that is the beauty of transformation. Next slide, please. So, what is the first thing we need to do? What's the first thing? Think about it. What is the first thing we need to do? Next slide. It goes back to changing our thinking. When we let the inner critic, when we've let the naysayers, when we let them play around in the greatest computer that was ever created, your mind, you get derailed. Often when I've spoken at events, especially women events, and we talk about mindset, I've had people come up to me and they talk about, well, the teacher told me this when I was in primary school, or my boss said this. And often when I ask them, well, when did this happen? These are things that happened 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And people are still holding on to it. Remember, people can call you anything, but it's what you choose to answer to. Just because somebody said something doesn't make it fact. And you have to be clear and know who you are, because your thinking Your thinking and your time, those are your greatest resources. What you know and your 86,400 seconds that you get each and every day, those are your two most valuable commodities. And of course, throw in good health. Next slide, please. So when you think about what assumptions might be restricting your thinking, what might be keeping you focused more on the problems than the possibilities? Next slide, please. So back to those 9 dots. When you think about these 9 dots, how do you connect those 9 dots? With 4 lines without taking your pencil off the paper. How do you do it? Everybody's still a little perplexed about how you do it. And I'm gonna tell you at the end, because if I did it, you wouldn't really see, and I didn't put the answer in the presentation. But I'll tell you, and I'll give you a hint, and maybe by the end or even after, someone you might hit me up or you tell me if you got it. But I'll tell you this, to successfully connect these 9 dots, you got to go outside the box. I'll just leave it right there. Next slide, please. So, what assumptions do you have? What assumptions do you have about your possibilities, about your impact, about what you can do? Are you limiting yourself? Have you embraced a limited mindset, or do you have a growth mindset? You have to ask yourself that. Because of course we're human, and many times situations, circumstances put us in a mindset that it makes us a bit discouraged. We're human, we can't help that. Sometimes we feel that I can't bounce back, or we hear so much discouragement, or we're not getting, things are not happening in the time frame that we envision. But remember, everything happens in due season. If you stay focused on the vision, and if you take a step towards your vision each and every day, don't worry about what you see. Just walk in faith, because often what you see is that is really just a smoke screen. That's just what you see in with the naked eye. I have found, once I finally had the courage to leave the comfort of my box, that opportunities, situations, circumstances, resources, they find me. They come to me. That as long as I keep my faith and I'm looking true north, and I try to be purposeful, and I try to let my steps be ordered, everything that I need always finds me. Many times things that I even didn't have a clue that was possibility, they come my way. So stay focused on your vision. Stay focused on being a force, a transformational force for good, for change. But that change starts with you. Next slide, please. So when you think about having your change my world mindset, I want you to think about, what are those things that you need to get rid of? What is those mindset? What are those things that are holding you back? Maybe you started your social enterprise and you've had some hiccups and you kind of halted. Or maybe you've had some setbacks in your organization or your ministry, and you let those things kind of derail you. Let those things go. I charge everybody to get a little box or get a little envelope, and I want you to put, I can't, I try, I don't know, I might, I maybe. I want you to put all of those words. I want you to put all of it in an envelope, and I want you to throw it in the garbage, or I want you to burn it. And you know, when you get rid of garbage or what, you don't go back out to the garbage can and bring it back. So once you get all of that out of your mind and your spirit, don't bring it back, because try is a useless word. When we say I'm gonna try, that really means I'm not gonna do it. Because if you try to pick up a glass of water, it takes action. So you didn't try to pick up the glass of water, you picked it up. So try is useless. You don't need to say I'm gonna try. No, you're being. Get rid of try. Next slide, please. So you gotta believe in yourself and you gotta have hope. I say that hope stands for having an optimistic perspective every day. That's what hope means to me. And you think about it, that's what hope is, having an optimistic perspective every day. That when you greet the day, that you have this mindset. I'm gonna use my gifts and talents today. Something wonderful is gonna happen. I'm gonna add value to someone. I'm gonna do something with my ministry, in my organization. Having hope, being a hope helper and instilling and igniting hope in others. That is how you change yourself and change the world. Next slide. You have got to believe that hope is possible. And it starts with leading yourself. We cannot lead others until we lead ourselves. And leading ourselves is one of the most challenging leadership roles that we have. It's often much easier to tell people what they should be doing, where they should be going, how they should be organizing, but leading ourselves can be a tremendous challenge. Next slide. So when do people change? And remember, I said to you, I didn't decide to embrace what spirit was telling me until loss. You don't want to start living as a result of loss. I was sitting there uncomfortable, but getting comfortable being uncomfortable because I was fearful. What happens if I leave my job? What if I leave this great pay? Wonder, if this is a spirit telling me to go out here and do these projects. Wonder if this is my own voice. Wonder. I sat there and I played that script over and over and over for probably about 4 years, from the time that the spirit first told me that you need to leave your job and go and do this other work. 4 years. And it wasn't until one day the CEO said uh, to a colleague, he said, Anita is smart. He said, I have her spirit, but I want her heart. And the way he said it, it almost sounded like the devil speaking. And on that day, December 17th, I wrote out my resignation and I left, because it's something, it put chills in my spirit, the way that was said. It didn't bode well with my spirit. So you don't want to let loss make you decide to change and to start to live. But when do people change? Next slide, please. People, they change when they've heard enough, when they've hurt and hurt. When people are hurt, then they decide finally, okay, I need to make a change. Or when they've seen enough. People, they say, well, I can't take this anymore. Then people might decide to change. Next slide. People sometimes change when they've learned enough. A lot of times people say, well, I got a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. People sometimes, when they've learned and they've learned the hard way, and we all recognize that the life lessons and the journeys that we go through, we're to gain wisdom from that. But when we keep repeating the same thing over and over, the same lessons keep coming back until we gain the wisdom. That's what the life lessons are. It's for us to learn. It's to learn so that we can really embrace the present and do better in the future. Next slide, please. When they receive enough. So you have to think about, you don't want to wait for hurt, or when you've learned the hard way, or when you've seen some things that just make you chill, or you feel that you have received, and that receiving may be not necessarily good treatment. You don't want to wait to change your world, to walk into your manifest your destiny. Everybody that's listening to me tonight, you know what your divine calling is. You know what you're supposed to be doing if you're not already doing it. If you're already doing it, you know how you should be expanding it. And those of you that are not, you know that there's something else you're supposed to do, and you are either letting fear or finances or really not being able to see what's going to come at the end to keep you. But we have to walk in faith. Don't let fear and finances keep you from taking that one step. Because when you walk in divine purpose, when you are really answering the calling on your life, your gifting, the resources and opportunities will come your way. Next slide, please. So you got to have hope for others. Next slide. And you got to have hope for yourself. You are, I call it, that you are a hope helper. You are a hope one who builds it. You rebuild hope. You revive hope. You reignite hope. And that, as I said, in my world, Dr. Defoe calls hope having an optimistic perspective every day. That things are going to get better, that things are going to be better, that I walk with a spirit of hope. Because too many people have embraced and have learned hopelessness. There's a book called Learn Hopelessness, and it talks about how many times people, and that it can happen from generation to generation, that people learn how to be hopeless and they embrace it full force. And it's hard to move them from that position because it has so overtaken them that no matter what, they always have a spirit of hopelessness. Next slide, please. Hope is for a better future. When you have hope, you know that, okay, I may not have everything that I need today. Things may not have worked out as I had anticipated totally for today. But I have another 86,400 seconds tomorrow. I have another opportunity. What did I learn today that I can use so that my tomorrow is better? That's what having that optimistic perspective is. You don't get stuck and say, oh goodness, my Thursday was so bad. I know my Friday is going to be more of the same. And oh my goodness, it's probably going to be like that Saturday and Sunday too. You don't want to walk around with that kind of spirit. You don't want to let that impact your work, your social enterprise, your business, your church, whatever it is you're leading. Next slide, please. We all need one another. Well, I've said this earlier. Next slide. We do. That the more that you have others in your tribe, the more that you harness their intelligence. And you see this quote from Mother Teresa that she often would say, what she can do, somebody else can do, and vice versa. Everybody brings a gifting. You bring an intelligence, you bring a perspective. And it's when we learn and can work in harmony, because trust me, in many of our communities, we don't work together, we don't collaborate, we always argue thinking that either somebody is going to get more credit or more resources. And trust me, I always say, we don't have to behave that way because there's more than enough oxygen in the room. If there was only enough oxygen in this world for one person, I don't know who that one person might be, but it might not be any of us. There's plenty of oxygen to go around. The only person that's going to stop you is you. You're not going to be derailed by somebody else. Anything that you don't accomplish is because you have decided to not pursue it or you decided to quit. Next slide, please. You know, when you bring a team together, there's power in a team. When you get a proper team together and the team is working together, it's like a well-oiled engine. Now, I don't know anything about fixing engines. I know that when you put the key in, the car is supposed to crank, and if you put the oil in it, which a lot of times women don't know, that keeps everything running smooth. But I know if there's no oil, that I do know. And if something else is wrong with the engine, it's not going to hum, and you're not going to be able to move forward. And so you need your team to be a well-oiled engine, and you harnessing all the skills of everybody on the team. You can let someone else shine. They may be good with organizing. Somebody might be good with the technology. When you bring all of that together, that is the power. That is the brilliance of, you know, of a team, and you work together, especially when you all focused on the common vision. Next slide, please. So these are 5 principal thoughts of change that my mentor teaches me. And one of them is, who is more important than me? Next one. Who is the more important than how? What unites us is more important than what divides us. What I have is more important than what I lack. Collaboration is more important than cooperation. Because when we collaborate, because sometimes people say they're cooperating, but they're really not cooperating with a whole heart, and cooperation can take many different levels. But when we are truly collaborating, and I'm helping and we all contributing toward that vision, we can indeed change the world. Next slide, please. So this is the call to action. What are you going to do? How are you going to change your world and then change the world of others? Is it going to be through your social enterprise, through your nonprofit, through your church, through you as an individual? How are you going to change the world? How can you use this magnificent tool that uses business principles with social good to help transform communities? How are you going to do it? And I send a call to action to everybody. You can do what you can do in your own way, uniquely by design. Next slide, please. So this is my question to you. Who's going to apply within? Auditions are being held for you to be yourself. Everybody has that divine assignment. You don't have to worry about being the other person. The only race you got to run is your own race. Your race is divinely yours. Your divine assignment is yours. The only person you got to compete with is that person that you were yesterday and the person you're becoming. That's the only person you got to compete with. So you have to ask yourself, am I trying to be somebody else, or am I going to choose to be myself? And you see, at the end of it, it says apply within, because that's where it comes from. It's your heart and your spirit. That's what leaders do. As I say, you inspire others and to greatness and to use their gifting, and you manage your processes. Too many of us, for whatever reasons, because we think that person is more skilled, or we think that person has a better approach, or we think that person is more hooked up, whatever we think that we have to be that person to accomplish our divine assignment. I'm here to tell you, what you need, who you need to be, what you need for the job. It's inside you. The treasures were given to you. But you got to look within and ask yourself, what am I thinking I'm lacking? What am I not doing? Why am I thinking I got to be somebody else to be successful? Auditions are being held for you to be yourself. Are you going to step up and play the part? Or are you going to continue to try to be somebody else? That's not your race. That's not your divine assignment. That's not you. Success and divine greatness is in you. You have to change. You have to claim it and decide to walk in it. Next slide. So, are you going to do something? Are you going to decide to change your world so that you can really be value added to others? Next slide. Notice your thinking. When you find yourself saying negative thoughts, talking negative to yourself, or doubting yourself, so many times when we make a mistake, we say, oh man, I'm so stupid. No, don't talk negative to yourself. You may say, oh, I should have done that differently. The action might not have been the wisest move, but you're not stupid. You're not dumb. So don't have negative, get rid of your negative self-talk. Next, please. Where does your hope lie? Next slide. Where does your hope lie? It should lie within. We're deep in your spirit, in your heart. And you're asking yourself, are you focusing on the things that could be? Or next slide, please. Are you focusing on the things that have gone wrong or the things that you lost? Are you focused on the negativity? Ask yourself, what am I focused on? Because Napoleon Hill and Robert Allen, they talk about we manifest what we think about all day. So what are you thinking about? If you're thinking about negative thoughts and you're thinking about a failure or a setback that you had from 15 years ago, and you're thinking about that, that's dominating your mindset. Don't focus on the negative. Remember, when things happen, situations, look for the lesson, take the wisdom from that, and then use that so that you can do better tomorrow and the tomorrows after that. Next slide. So, are you looking to figure out how you can unite with people that are in your tribe or folks that you want to collaborate with? Don't think about what divides you with people. Think about how you can collaborate. Think about what you can do together. What are you able to manifest with that particular person or that particular organization? Focus on the greater good. And the more you focus on the greater good, the more you give out good, the more good will come to you. Next slide, please. So, in closing, I want to say, as a leader and as a social entrepreneur, choose to focus on the gain, not the pain. Focus on the aspects of your experience that make you grateful, not hateful. And use the experiences to get bitter, not to get bitter, but to get better. Think about that again. Choose the gain, not the pain. Be grateful, not hateful. Be better, not bitter. And remember this. Next slide. Change happens on the outside. It's where you can see it. We know when the seasons happen, you see the leaves fall off the tree. That when the season, you see when they return, you see when the flowers. But that's the change. But transformation, real transformation, because this is sustainable transformation, happens in the inside. Let transformation happen for you. Let your divine goodness shine because you have a divine assignment and nobody can complete it but you. I want to thank you for allowing me to share this time with you. And I hope that you would choose to change your world so that you can change the world of others. It's been my honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Defoe. Come on, let's celebrate her our way. Let her know that we're here with her. Those of you who are not with your cameras or those of you who are not on video, we still celebrate with Her Excellency, Dr. Defoe. I want to acknowledge the presence of Ambassador Robert Bernardo. Robert, welcome to the class of Seal this evening. I see you there all evening. Just let me greet you briefly before we jump into other things. Pleasant good evening to you, and thank you so very much for being with us in the class of Steel.
Thank you so much. Please forgive me for joining in so late, but it's been quite a crazy week. Actually, I was notified by Dr. Hillary of your other sessions today, but unfortunately, I had a really chaotic schedule. So thank you for receiving me. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you this evening. What is your brief take on this evening's class of what little you've received from Her Excellency Dr. Defoe? And by the way, I see you guys smiling because Dubai was a pleasure for us together.
Yeah.
But what's your take on this evening's session?
Could I add one thing with all my admiration and respect for Dr. Defoe? It's not criticism. I just want to expand a little bit what she said about the leader. Okay, may I? It will take 3 minutes, not more. You see, I fully agree and endorse totally what Dr. Defoe has said, but I'd like to pose a question to the rest of the attendees as leaders, because I've met most of you in Dubai, and I am absolutely convinced you are leaders. But allow me to pose a question for you. What is the game you're playing as leader? And for whom are you playing it? Allow me to give you the reply, or further a little bit along the thinking. Let's see. Do you choose to be a leader for the short term, justifying your decisions to increase results or profits in the next quarter or in the next semester? Or do you choose to play the long game, taking into account the benefits for the whole of humanity, seeking authentic moral leadership that looks far beyond just monetary profits? If you choose the first scenario, I can tell you a quote by a man I respect, even though I criticize quite severely. But since he's left his position, he's become quite an activist. His name is Paul Polman. He's the former CEO of Unilever, one of these huge consumer product conglomerates. And what he says is that we are short of courageous leaders. There are many leaders out there that are not courageous. They play it safe. And how do they play it? Very simple. They play it not to lose instead of playing to win. They will never step out of their comfort zone. They will never make a commitment unless they are 110% certain they can deliver. Mm-hmm. But then what happens? Basically, they're greenwashing their performance because their ideas are only repackaged. They don't innovate. They don't see beyond, we can say it, and pardon the expression, they can't see beyond their nose. But then if you choose the second option, And this, I think, is fully in line with what Dr. Defoe says. You have to be very conscious, very aware that you cannot begin tomorrow. You can't wait until you have formal positional power or any combination of letters after your name to realize that you have a purpose and that you must live it out. Your decision to spark systemic change has to begin today, and your hunger for learning does not end when you receive your diploma of formal education. And that's one thing I tell my children. I've got a 20-year-old son. And when I tell him, when you finish your degree, don't even dream that you have finished your education. When you receive your diploma, it's actually your ticket to get on the starting line, because that's when your education actually starts. That's when your education actually starts. You've got to remain curious, develop new abilities, refine existing skills. Many times, not only refine your existing skills, but actually reskill yourself and set yourself up to evolve with society and therefore business for the years to come. That's basically my comment. And with all due respect, Dr. Defoe, please, I'm fully in agreement with you, but I thought I'd give a little bit more expanded comments on leadership.
No,
Thank you so.
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Defoe.
No, I was gonna say, I totally agree. The context of what we're sharing tonight. This is the third part of a series about social entrepreneurship and some aspect. But I fully concur, because positional power and being a true servant leader and actually being courageous enough to lead, those are key. So trust me, I'm not offended. You see me, I'm shaking my head because I totally agree, because there are far too many people that are in leadership roles, even inherited or that have been placed there, that are not leaders at all. And they're certainly not servant leaders, and they do take this easy way out. Making sure that they stay focused on wins and profits and not the greater good. So I think what you added, I embrace it. I teach it, and so thank you for adding that to the conversation. Most appreciated.
Well, on that note, Dr. Defoe, Your Excellency, and Robert, thank you so very much for your contribution to the class this evening. I'm going to thank all of you, all of our guests, those who are in the class this evening. I appreciate you for being here. And tomorrow at 10 in the morning, we have our to release us this evening and allow us to have a good evening's rest. And for those who will be joining us in the training tomorrow, we look forward to seeing you in the training tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. London time. Your Excellency, Dr. Defoe, I want to appreciate you for such a detailed exposition this evening on social entrepreneurship. I think that you're doing justice, and I equally look forward to the other classes that you will bring in the class of Steel. Her Excellency, Dr. Anita Davis-Defoe, you could check her out on our LinkedIn. You would see posts for her and what she does and how you can get connected with her. She is one of, I would use the term, one of the greatest teachers that I know and I appreciate. And beyond just knowing and appreciating her, I value her highly. And we appreciate her part in being one of the chief mentors in the class of Steel. Membership for the class of Steel is actually open. You could visit us on our website, theclassofsteel.com, and you can check out a little bit more about us. Her Excellency, Dr. Defoe, and all of our team, I want to acknowledge our Chief of Protocol, His Excellency Donald Ewers, our COO in the person of Her Excellency Doreen Berunji. I also want to appreciate Her Excellency Bishop Dr. Comfort Adu out of Ghana, who is responsible for our monarchs of the nations and also for those dignitaries in the higher circles that we collaborate with. I appreciate you, Your Excellency, Bishop Dr. Comfort. I also want to acknowledge the person of His Excellency Olukoya Olusogun. He is our youth director for the class of Steel, responsible for mentoring and making sure that our youth are positioned for the next generation. Equally, His Excellency Daniel Sopodoro is responsible for those in the Franco regions, and we will be looking forward to bringing more individuals out of the DRC and other Franco regions who will become a part of the class of Steel. I acknowledge also the person of His Excellency Dr. Hilary Ema, who is our strategic partner, the Leaders Without Borders. And this evening, we really want to appreciate you. Thank you so very much for being with us. I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele, and we look forward sincerely to seeing you tomorrow in our training if you're able to join us. Alternatively, we will see you on the next class. That's Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. And you can check out our other videos on YouTube where we have shared quite a number of them. We have almost 200 videos of our classes that are available, and some are live and some are in private. Join with us as we continue to empower ourselves, because it is all about looking on the inside. How can we be better to make the change the world needs? I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele, the team of the class of Steele, my First Lady, Her Excellency Jeannie Steele. Thank you so very much for being with us this evening. Our very special guest, His Excellency Robert Bernardo. Thank you for being with us this evening. Good evening and God bless you, everybody. Bye-bye for now.